Niall Stanage, the White House columnist for The Hill, joins us. Niall, happy Black Friday. Thanks for being here.
Good to be here, Mitch. Happy Black Friday to you also.
Now, I have to ask you, could Biden make a decision this weekend? He said, hey, probably early next year. What's the likelihood that he comes out on Cyber Monday and says, hey, by the way, I'm running in 2024?
I would be surprised if he makes that announcement. But one thing I would stress is making the announcement and making the decision are two different things. We saw in Tom's report, the White House press secretary, Karine Jean-Pierre, talking about the fact that the president wants to have a private conversation with his family. This weekend would seem a good and conducive time to do that, even though we do not expect an announcement until early next year, one possibility being the State of the Union address, which typically takes place in February.
Well, I think in the lead up to the midterm elections, we heard, and you and I talked more than once about how Democrats want someone else to run, how Democratic voters want someone else to run. I have not heard that since the Democrats did better than expected in these midterm elections. Do you think that the performance on the 8th of November resulted in a lot of people saying, okay, never mind, maybe he should run again?
I think it certainly relieved some of the pressure on President Biden. If we were to run the opposite hypothetical where Democrats had done very badly, then I think calls for him to step aside would rise up, much more loudly. Now that Democrats did better than expected, there's less of that pressure. And I see you were showing some other potential candidates there. One of the president's biggest strengths or assets, honestly, is that there's no single candidate who is a very, very obvious, awesome alternative. All those other options have their own problems and vulnerabilities.
Well, and Niall, speaking of alternatives, you have a piece up on the Hill right now about Republicans. Trump and DeSantis, clearly 1 and 1A as far as those that side of the political spectrum goes. Who is the best of the rest out there? Who might challenge those two for the potential Republican nomination to run against Joe Biden or somebody else?
A candidate who is certainly an outside bet, but I think has some potential, is Nikki Haley, the former ambassador to the United Nations, and of course, before that, the governor of South Carolina. She would present a very different face of the Republican Party. Obviously, she's probably the preeminent female candidate. She is the daughter of Indian immigrants, presents a more inclusive face. So I can see a lane for her to run in. Others of the alternatives, say someone like Mike Pompeo, the former Secretary of State. He's, I suppose, a respected figure in Republican politics, but it's more difficult for me to see how he gets past those big two, Trump and DeSantis.
And a poll just last week found that Trump has 46% of support among GOP voters. DeSantis has 28%. That gap has narrowed substantially. How competitive do you think the general will be? The general election between Democrat A and Republican A, whoever they end up being. Are we looking at another gut-wrenching close election that takes, days or weeks to sort through?
We quite possibly are, partly because where we are right now in our politics, the nominee for either major party can depend on about 45% of the vote. So you're really fighting to turn out the maximum number of people and fight for a small number of voters in the centre. Of course, things can change very quickly in politics. The political landscape can change. But right now, it looks like a very close election because Democrats have the advantage of incumbency, but the difficulty of things like high inflation, rather mediocre approval numbers for President Biden. Looks like it is likely to be a tight election in 2024.
There's a lot of time to go before 2024, but we will talk about it every day until then. That's Niall Stanage. Niall, thank you for your time.
Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.